Then, folks, because today we're diving headfirst into the glorious, messy, and frankly, kind of bewildering world of anatomy and basic cell biology. We're talking definitions, relationships, functions, basically everything you need to ace that first anatomy exam. Clara, sounds thrilling, doesn't it?
Thrilling, Theodore, especially when you realize anatomy literally comes from a Greek word meaning to cut up or to cut open. So essentially, we're here to talk about strategically dismembering things to understand them better. Very zen.
Yes, strategically dismembering is certainly a phrase, but it makes sense. You're studying structure, and structure always implies function, which is physiology. It's like looking at a car engine. You see the parts, you figure out what they do.
Exactly. And we've got two big categories for this cutting up business. There's microscopic anatomy, where you're peering at tiny cells and tissues, which we call cytology and histology. Then there's gross anatomy, where you look at things you can actually see with the naked eye. Surface anatomy, regional anatomy, and systemic anatomy. Plus, special subsets like comparative, developmental, and radiological.
So from cutting up to comparative dismemberment. Love it. And the body, this masterpiece of biological engineering, it's organized like a Russian doll. We start with the chemical level, atoms and molecules. Then, boom, cells and organelles. That's the cellular level. Next, tissues, groups of similar cells, like epithelial, connective, muscle, and nervous tissue.
Right. And then those tissues get together and form organs, structures made of multiple tissues. Then organs buddy up to form organ systems. We've got 11 of those working in unison. Finally, all those systems cooperate to create the complete organism. It's an intricate dance, all striving for that sweet, sweet homeostasis.
Homeostasis, the body's never-ending quest for balance, like a very particular landlord who wants everything just so. What makes us, not a particularly energetic rock?
That would be our life processes. We metabolize, breaking things down with catabolism and building them up with anabolism. We respond to changes, from a pinprick to a sudden loud noise. We move from a cell wiggling to our whole body doing a dramatic interpretive dance. We grow, we differentiate, where unspecialized cells become specialized. And of course, we reproduce, making new cells or new organisms.
So we're basically tiny, self-replicating, growing, responsive chemical factories. Got it. Now, let's talk about body regions, because apparently my leg isn't precise enough for medical professionals.
Certainly not. The body has two major regions, the axial region, which is your head, neck, and trunk, and the appendicular region, your upper and lower limbs. But then we get fancy. Your head isn't just a head, it's cephalic. Your neck, cervical. Your arm, brachial. Your thigh, femoral. It's like we're renaming everything in Latin for fun.
And my knee is patellar. My ankle, tarsal. Oh, and the thumb gets its own special name, pollex. And the big toe is helix, because they're just that special. It's like the celebrities of our digits.
They truly are. And then we have to describe where these celebrity body parts are relative to each other. This is where anatomical position and directional terms save the day. You've got superior and inferior, meaning above and below, but only for the axial skeleton.
So the sternum is superior to the navel. Makes perfect sense. Then anterior or ventral for the front, and posterior or dorsal for the back. Medial means towards the midline. Lateral means away from it. The nipple, for instance, is lateral to the sternum.
And proximal means closer to the point of attachment. Distal means farther away. Your fingers are distal to your wrist. Superficial is towards the surface. Deep is underneath. Your skin is superficial to your muscles. Then there's ipsilateral, for things on the same side, and contralateral, for opposite sides. Like your right kidney and right lung are ipsilateral. You really need to get these down, because doctors won't ask you to point.
They'll just nod sagely if you say ipsilateral testicle. Got it. And then the imaginary lines we draw through our bodies, the planes. Sagittal divides right and left. Mid-sagittal gives you equal halves. Coronal, or frontal, splits front and back. Transverse, or horizontal, cuts upper and lower. And oblique, those are just angled cuts for when you're feeling fancy.
Always get a little fancy with an oblique cut. Then we have our body cavities, the body's internal storage units. The dorsal body cavity contains the central nervous system, so we're talking cranial cavity for the brain and vertebral cavity for the spinal cord.
The ventral body cavity is a bit more spacious. thoracic cavity for the lungs in their pleural cavities, and the heart in its pericardial cavity, nestled in the mediastinum. Below the diaphragm, you've got the abdominal pelvic cavity, which is subdivided into the abdominal cavity for your digestive organs, then the pelvic cavity for the bladder and reproductive organs. It's like the heart gets a VIP lounge.
It absolutely does. And these cavities are lined by serous membranes. Parietal lines the cavity wall, and visceral covers the organ itself. Think of it as the body's internal saran wrap, keeping everything slippery and happy.
Slippery and happy, excellent. Now, for finer detail, the abdominal quadrants and regions. Doctors love quadrants for a quick and dirty diagnosis in the ER. Right upper, right lower, left lower. The gallbladder's in the right upper. Easy.
But for more precision, say in surgery, you use regions, like the hypochondriac regions below the costal cartilage, the epigastric region above the stomach, the umbilical region around the navel, or the hypogastric below the stomach. And don't forget the lumbar and inguinal regions. The term hypochondriac, by the way, also refers to someone who always thinks they're sick. Context really matters.
So a hypochondriac might complain about pain in their hypochondriac region. Very meta. Let's pivot to our origins, germ layers. We all started as 3 simple layers. Ectoderm, which became our nervous tissue and epidermis, mesoderm, which formed our muscle and connective tissue, and endoderm, which lined our internal organs. It's like the original biological stratification.
From a 2-layer embryo to a 3-layer embryo, then suddenly you're a complex multi-organism. It's quite the glow-up. And all of that intricate development, it's built on a foundation. Cell theory. Cells are the fundamental units of life. All cells come from pre-existing cells, and they're the smallest structural and functional units. No cells just pop into existence from the ether, as one might say.
No ether cells. Got it. And our cells come in 2 main flavors. Somatic cells, which are our body cells, they're diploid, meaning they have 2 sets of chromosomes, and they divide by mitosis to make identical copies. Then you have sex cells, or gametes, sperm and ova. They're haploid, with only 1 set of chromosomes, formed by meiosis. That's how we keep the species number constant.
Exactly. Mitosis makes 2 identical cells. Meiosis makes 4 non-identical haploid cells. It's a genetic balancing act. Now let's talk about the plasma membrane, the cell's bouncer and gatekeeper.
The plasma membrane. It separates the inside from the outside, regulates movement, and maintains an electrochemical gradient. It's like a tiny, very selective security guard.
And it follows the fluid mosaic model. Phospholipids form the bilayer, cholesterol regulates its fluidity, like a membrane's internal thermostat, and then you have proteins acting as channels, pumps, and receptors. Glycolipids and glycoproteins act as cell identity markers. They're like the cell's fashion sense, telling other cells who they are.
So, our cells are wearing little sugary ID badges. Fascinating. And how do things get in and out of this exclusive club?
Through membrane transport. We have passive transport, which requires no ATP. That's simple diffusion, osmosis, water's special diffusion, facilitated diffusion using channels, and filtration when there's a pressure gradient. Then there's active transport, where the cell burns ATP to make things happen, like the sodium-potassium pump or endocytosis, phagocytosis for eating big stuff, pinocytosis for cell drinking, and receptor-mediated endocytosis, which is way more efficient, like grabbing apples with both hands instead of chugging the whole bobbing for apples barrel.
The apple bobbing analogy really clarifies the cell's party etiquette. Now, inside the cell, we've got all these tiny factories, the organelles. The nucleus, of course, holds the DNA. The rough ER synthesizes proteins for secretion, while the smooth ER handles lipid synthesis and detoxification.
The Golgi apparatus modifies, sorts, and packages those proteins. Mitochondria are the powerhouses, churning out ATP. Lysosomes are the recycling centers, digesting waste. Peroxisomes are the chemical incinerators, detoxifying things using peroxide. It's a busy little city.
A very busy, very dangerous city with tiny incinerators. Don't forget the surface modifications. Microvilli increase absorption, cilia move materials over the cell surface, and flagella move the entire cell, like in sperm. Sperm are basically the only cells with a little outboard motor.
Indeed. And the cytoskeleton provides cell shape, internal organization, and movement. Microfilaments, intermediate filaments, and microtubules are the cell's internal scaffolding, ensuring it doesn't just collapse into a puddle. It even shapes red blood cells into their perfect biconcave discs for oxygen transport.
It's like the body's internal architectural firm. And how do these cells stick together or talk to each other?
Cell junctions. Tight junctions prevent leakage, like in your bladder or stomach, making a strong seal. Then, plaque-bearing junctions, like desmosomes and adherens junctions, act like spot welds, holding cells tightly. And gap junctions allow for direct communication, letting electrical signals flow directly between cells, which is crucial for things like your heart beating in sync.
So, cells gossip through gap junctions. Good to know. We also have special cells like Langerhans cells for immune defense in the skin, keratinocytes for protection, and Merkel cells for skin sensation. And different types of cartilage, hyaline for friction reduction, elastic for maintaining shape like your ear, and fibrocartilage for shock absorption in your spine.
And the fibers, too. Collagen for tensile strength, elastic fibers for stretch and recoil. It's like the body chose the best materials for every job. Now, speaking of materials, the body, despite its complexity, only uses 4 main tissue types. It boggles my mind.
Only 4 main tissues for all this complexity. We have epithelial tissue, always on surfaces, internal or external, and also forms glands. Connective tissue holds everything together or fills spaces like adipose tissue, or stores materials. Nervous tissue, with its neurons and glial cells, sends signals. And muscle tissue.
Muscle tissue. 3 types. Skeletal muscle is striated and voluntary. You control it. Smooth muscle is non-striated and involuntary. You don't control it, thankfully, or you'd have to consciously digest your food. And cardiac muscle is striated but involuntary, acting like a functional syncytium, thanks to those gap junctions.
So your heart just does its own thing. Good to know. Moving up the ladder, we have organ systems. The cardiovascular system, the digestive system, which most of us are quite fond of, the reproductive system, urinary, respiratory, endocrine, muscular, integumentary, nervous, and skeletal systems, all working in concert for the grand performance of being alive.
It truly is a performance. And wrapping everything up, we have membranes at the tissue level. These are 2 layers of tissue, usually epithelium plus connective tissue, forming separations or coverings. Serous membranes secrete watery fluid and line our body cavities, like pleura around the lungs, peritoneum in the abdomen, and pericardium around the heart.
Then synovial membranes lubricate our joints. Cutaneous membrane is just fancy talk for skin, covering our entire body. And mucous membranes create mucus, lining our digestive and respiratory tracts, making them slippery and protective. It's the body's internal and external waterproofing system.
A very elaborate and efficient waterproofing system indeed. And all of these terms and concepts are the foundational language of understanding how our amazing bodies work.
It's quite a lot to take in, but incredibly insightful. If you found this discussion as enlightening as we did, please share it with a curious friend.